And hello, this is again Pastor Jim Dawkins with Living Sacrifice Ministries. This is our fourth and final in a series on anger. Normally this would have been posted a couple of days ago, but I was not feeling well and had some other obligations that needed to be taken care of, so I felt the need to get those things taken care of first. As for what we'll be addressing our upcoming studies, I'm not quite sure yet. The Lord has laid a few things on my mind. I'm still praying about just where we'll go from here. But for now, let's take a look at our closing views on anger. Keep in mind, this has not at all been an all-inclusive view on anger. This is not in any way been everything you'll ever need to know about dealing with anger, either in yourself or in other people. Just kind of open the door to helping us look at some things. I've used some resources to kind of put this together. It's a study in itself. There are even specialists, therapists, Christian and secular, who make careers of writing books and studying and providing therapy for people with nothing but anger issues. So it's certainly certainly something that someone like myself, without this kind of training, can cover in 4 short sessions in a video blog situation like this. So don't think that we've gone anywhere near getting close to that. Now, the last time we met, we looked at some questions. Today, as we expand a look into what challenges we have when living with other people who are angry, let's begin by seeing how the same questions can be answered at the other person or persons in our lives who may be angry themselves. Now, keep in mind,
we're not here to heap criticism on these other people. We're not here to try to fix them or to pass judgment. So don't think that anything that I'm here to talk about or that we're here to discuss, if you're using this in a small group setting, is for you to say, well, yeah, that applies to my boss. Yeah, that applies to my wife or my husband. This applies to so-and-so or this person, that person. Now I know how to fix him. Now I know why it's his fault or anything like that. No, it's not. It's for you to help possibly understand a few things that make an angry person tick, and they can help you as a Christian person perhaps understand your role in this person's life and how you can either come alongside them better or determine whether or not it is time to sever relationships with these people at times. So we are in a world where the enemy is working overtime to bring us down, and we need to be aware of that at all times. So we need to look and make sure we are not making ourselves that angry person, or if we are, ask ourselves these things about being angry or dealing with that angry person. First of all, have I been unforgiving to someone where I should have been forgiving? And this can be something that causes you to be the angry person, or even something in the way you've dealt with someone who has a lot of anger. I know there are times that I have dealt with somebody who has anger issues. They are angry all the time, and I don't necessarily know. Why does this person seem to be angry all the time? They seem to have been angry from the day I met them. And I don't know everything that makes them tick. So I get upset and angry with them. So now we have 2 angry people in a relationship. Am I not being forgiving when they upset me? Ask yourself this. Because the next question on this is, has this led to anger? If I am in a relationship with you and you seem angry all the time, am I not forgiving you or not understanding you of this? Is this leading me to not be angry? This is going to be a real problem. Or if you have slighted me, if you have done something that I feel is wrong. I know anger involved yet, but now I become angry. because I've not forgiven you. As I think I mentioned last week, if something has happened, the anger has started to build, have I gone to try to resolve this? I'm looking at where, and also am I looking at where I may have been contributing to the situation? Because resolving doesn't always mean, okay, you did something to me, have I gone to you and told you, you were wrong, you owe me an apology. But have I gone to you to say, okay, we have a problem, how do we come together to resolve this? If I can say, I am contributing to this in some way, and I'm not saying make things up, but if I can find my own error in something, my own contribution, or ask, is there something I'm doing that's contributing to it? Then we can come a long way in finding somebody accepting us. Remember, we need to ask ourselves, have we taken Jesus' instruction to forgive 70 times 7 if somebody has angered us? I mean, he didn't just give this to Peter when he asked. He gave these instructions to all of us. And again, is there a need for an intermediary in this situation? I want you to ask also, when you look at these questions, one major thing I would ask is, who in your immediate world, right around you, is angry? And this I'm asking because I'm talking about relationships with people who are angry people. You have someone in your immediate world right now who's an angry person, a member of your family, a spouse, someone you're in a relationship with, an employer, an employee, a parent, a child, or even your best friend. You have a best friend who's always angry, not at you, but at somebody else. He's always complaining about his boss or his wife, or he's always complaining about his neighbor. And, you may get along great with him, but he's always angry with somebody. Because I've been in that situation where my friend wasn't mad at me, but sure was always mad at somebody. Some of these people are unavoidable in the to some extent, unless you would say quit a job, leave your boss behind, sell your house, move away from the angry neighbor, or do something brutal like just eliminate the life of an angry brother-in-law or mother-in-law or something like that, which obviously would be an unbiblical and illegal thing. However, what you can do, and the better thing to do, is to look at the nature of your relationship and ask some questions. And one of those is this a necessary relationship? One being, for example, with a neighbor. You have somebody who lives across the street or next door who's always angry. How often do you need to have contact with this person? Is this person who needs to be a part of your life often or at all? Is it someone you might see when you go out to get in your car to go to work in the morning? And that's all, and you don't need anything more than that? Well, if that's so, then fine. Let that be the extent of the contact you have. Okay, let them be angry, but let that be their own issue. But if we're talking about someone like your spouse, well, then we have a totally different issue, and we'll touch on that. Because your spouse, we can't just say, well, my wife is always angry, I'm getting divorced, because the Bible tells us very clearly that in case, except for in cases of adultery, this is forbidden, and therefore you and your spouse need to seek counseling on something, or seek prayer, and find things that an intermediary, like I was talking about before, may be able to help deal with this problem. But simply leaving that relationship is not how to get. Do remember this, however, you are not going to fix your spouse. You are not going to. Not by telling your spouse how to, your husband or wife, this is how you need to be fixed, and not by simply making all the changes they think they want in you.
Neither of those will work. If it is a necessary relationship, such as one of employment, and it's your boss, and the angry person is, say, your employer or coworker, you can try to resolve the situation. And we want to make sure we do things biblically. We don't want to do things in an underhanded way. I would suggest things like trying to approach somebody in a non-threatening environment, and perhaps with an intermediary if one is possible, with a third party as well. But remember that Romans 12:18, Paul says, "If possible, so far as it depends on you, be at peace with all men." If possible, as far as it depends on you. If this is not possible to do under these circumstances, then you have to decide, do I need to seek employment elsewhere? Do I need to actually leave? Excuse me. And that can be a difficult thing to do. That can be something we may not want to do, but may be necessary. And then have no ties with this person, because you cannot compromise your Christian witness because of a job. And there can be other kinds of anger-filled relationships. These can be any number of kind of dangerous relationships the Bible talks about. Dangerous kinds of relationships that the Bible talks about. 1 Peter 4:15 gives a laundry list of these, such as murderers, thieves, and evildoers. Even a gossip can ruin a reputation or a standing in a community. In Proverbs 20:19 and Proverbs 16:28, it's given more about this. And then Proverbs 22 warns against a person given to anger. All of these, it's interesting, when they're talking about even things like murderers, thieves, evildoers, they throw in this mix people with anger, because anger in itself, although it is an emotion, and an emotion which in itself is not sinful, as we saw and as we talked about our very first week, it's one which, when it manifests itself in a negative light, which it usually does for us when we let it get out of control, leads to us doing negative, bad things that are going to go in directions that we definitely cannot afford to let them go. And that's where we run into our problem with this. So what are the consequences of an anger-filled relationship anyway, if you think about it? Well, if I'm in an anger-filled relationship, whether it is at home or on a job or with a friend or a neighbor, well, there's going to be disappointment, which is just going to lead to more anger or other negative feelings. Distress, it's going to spill over to other relationships. If it's, say, at home with my wife, it's going to spill over to my job, or vice versa. And it's going to cause my faith to waver. Eventually, I'm going to wonder, why am I like this? Why are these things happening to me? Why is God allowing me to end up with this happen? And we end up with a wavering faith and say, God, why has this happened? And God will never simply allow things to happen that He does not ordain. So if we're in an anger-filled relationship, it is not by God's doing. We need to realize that. It's not His choice that this should happen to us. Don't fear anger. It is there to tell us something is unsettling. I have gotten angry when somebody was disrespectful to my wife. I got angry when somebody showed disrespect to God or to the church. But to act on this in an inappropriate way is where we run into danger, and we fall into sin. Be prayerful about this. If you have problems with it, and if you've had problems with it in the past, then
Like I say, find some help from your church or from a Christian counselor about it. There are books on the subject, but constantly be in prayer about this and things that you know are challenges in your life. This will be a short message today. This is what I have to say today. As we're wrapping this up, next week we'll be starting a new series, or maybe just an individual series, an individual message. We aren't necessarily going to always have series messages like we have on this one on Anchor. I've enjoyed doing this series here, but we'll let the Lord lead us as we go forward. Thank you very much for watching this. If you've just seen this one, be it on YouTube, Facebook, or our website, wherever it was you picked it up, please leave a comment about it and let us know. And remember, this was the fourth in a series of 4, so there were 3 others before this if you didn't catch those. And be looking for us to be back here again next week. Thank you much, and God bless.